Hi everybody, welcome to English for You. I'm Pat.
And I'm Elsie.
And today we're going to be talking about why doctors and particularly surgeons dress the way that they do. Now, this doesn't mean like my father, who was a doctor and always wore some kind of silly tie to make his patients relax. Not quite that kind of clothing. Here we're talking about those special kind of clothes you always see doctors in TV shows and movies wearing in hospitals.
Yeah, and we're talking about surgeons here, right?
Yes, surgeons, people who do operations. Have you ever had an operation?
Actually, I haven't.
Okay.
Yet,
yes. Not so far. By the time we're recording this, I'm saying no. By the time you guys are watching it, maybe, because I have a knee issue and something might happen with that. But maybe I don't know what the knee issue is. But so before that, no. Apart from having some teeth pulled out and having some anesthetic to make me not feel it,
right.
No, I've never been put under general and gone to sleep, never broken a bone, never had to have anything fixed. So far, but I'm past 40 now. I have a lot of it ahead of me, I'm sure.
No, for everybody too.
Yes, it's one of those, life, death, taxes, and going under the knife. It's inevitable at some point. But why do the doctors who do those operations wear those kind of clothes you always see in shows like ER and Grey's Anatomy and all the other hospital dramas? Let's find out by reading through our article.
Reading.
Why do surgeons wear green or blue scrubs? At different hospitals and medical clinics, you can see uniforms in different styles and colors. But one thing stays constant. Go to practically any operating room in any country around the world, and you'll find that either green or blue is worn in the operating room. As you may have guessed, this didn't just happen by accident. There was a time when surgeons didn't wear anything special for surgery. They just wore their street clothes. As science progressed, surgeons started to wear something similar to an apron over their regular clothes. This was to protect them from blood and other fluids. Over time, they understood that a complete change of clothes would be cleaner and safer, thus improving a patient's chances of success. At first, the doctors changed into white scrubs, as this is a nice, clean color. But it caused a big problem. Operating rooms used very bright lights. This light reflected off the white clothing, causing a distracting glare and making it more difficult to see. In 1914, one surgeon decided to switch to green scrubs. He correctly thought this would be easier on the eyes. This solved the glare problem, and soon other surgeons followed suit.
So we introduced today's topic by saying, at different hospitals and medical clinics, you can see uniforms in different styles and colors, but one thing stays constant. Let's look at a couple of words in this sentence. To start off with the word clinic. A clinic is a doctor's office. Now, this could be a whole building where a couple of doctors, maybe a couple of nurses work. It's somewhere out on the street somewhere and you go and see that doctor. You can also use clinic for a particular room within a hospital where that doctor works. They might say, clinic hours are 9 to 5. That's my working hours, basically. You might say, for example, there were many people waiting in the clinic to see the doctor.
Clinic 这个名词呢，可以指的是医院里面的门诊部，或者是呢你一般在街上看到的诊所。那我们今天课文一开始说啊，在不同的医院或是门诊当中呢，你会看见医护人员穿着不同款式或是颜色的制服。But one thing stays constant.
That's right. If something is constant, It is unchanging. It is always the same, no matter where you are or what time of day, which country, which culture. This thing will not be different. Here's another example of this word. When I married you, I promised that my love for you would be constant. I wouldn't love you any less.Constant
这个形容词呢，代表是不变的，所以 stay constant 那就是 stay the same。那另外呢 ，constant 你还可以解释为连续不断的，像是 constant noise 那就是连续不断的噪音。So what stays constant here?
Well, we're still talking about the uniform and what they wear, and we'll explain what it is that doesn't change.The article says, go to practically any operating room in any country around the world, and you'll find that either green or blue is worn in the operating room. So here we use the word practically as an adverb. Now, you often think of practical as being like useful, something we can do. As an adverb, we can use it to mean almost or very nearly. It can demonstrate a practical example, but you can also just use it to mean like it's nearly this. It's not quite, it's not 100%, but it's like 95%. You might say, it's almost 5 p.m. on a Friday, so my day is practically done. I'm not going to start any new tasks now. So my day isn't quite actually done. I can't leave the office just yet, but it's practically done. It's almost done. It's 5 on a Friday. I'm not doing anything new. I'll just wait until it's time to go home.Practically
这个副词啊，代表差不多、几乎，你也可以用 almost 或是 nearly 来说。那给同学们一个例句咯，像是呢 ，She calls me practically every day，代表她几乎每天都打电话给我。或者是呢 ，These two jackets are practically the same， 这两件夹克外套几乎一样。但不是完全一样。那另外呢 practically 也可以当作实际上来解释，像是 practically speaking 那就是实际层面来说。For example, your idea is great, but practically speaking, we wouldn't be able to finish it in time. 你的点子很棒，但就实际层面来说，我们会来不及完成它。那再来呢，我们看到的 operating room 指的是手术室。那动词 operate 它就有动手术的意思。所以课文说到，几乎在每一间手术室当中呢，你只会看到两种颜色 ，green or blue。
You might often hear people use the letters OR to mean operating room, like surgeon to the OR very quickly, that kind of thing.Now, the article continues and says, as you may have guessed, this didn't just happen by accident. You know, people didn't go, well, what should we wear? I like blue. Yeah, all right, let's go with blue. No, there is some reason behind it. We are going to take a look at why throughout the article.
我们在这个句子当中呢，看到 as 这个字，它是我们今天 language in focus 的重点，所以我们赶快来看一下吧。今天要来看到 as 不同用法的比较。那第一个，当 as 作为从属连接词的时候啊，你根据前后文的关系，它可以表示以下几种含义。第一个是表示由于或是因为，那它的意思就跟 since 或是 because 相近。For example, as it was getting late, I decided to call him the next day. 因为时间已晚，我决定隔天再打电话给他。那第二个呢，它可以表示当点点点的时候，或是随着点点点，那它就与 when 或是 while 的意义相近。For example, as I was about to leave the party, he showed up. 当我要离开派对的时候，他出现了。那在第三种呢，是表示正如或是如同。那我们的课文当中说啊 ，As you may have guessed, this didn't just happen by accident. 正如你所猜到的，这不是巧合。那再来还有第四个哦，表示以同样的方式，也就是和点点点一样。For example, Kevin is late to school today.As usual 代表 Kevin 今天上学迟到了，就和往常一样。那另外啊 as 还可以作为介系词哦，它用来表示的是作为或是身为。As a doctor, he always tells his patients that it's important to exercise regularly. 身为一位医生，他总是告诉他的病人要规律运动。那另外呢，也是最后一个 as 还可以作为副词来解释哦，它能够表达的意思就是和点点点一样，点点点。像是呢 ，People say vanilla is more boring than chocolate.But But I think it's just as good. 大家都说香草口味尝起来比巧克力口味单调，但我觉得香草口味也一样棒。
So what is the story of these green and blue kind of uniforms or clothing? The article says there was a time when surgeons didn't wear anything special for surgery. They just wore their street clothes.
Oh, just their normal clothes.
Yeah, just whatever they were wearing when somebody said, all right, time to cut somebody open. Because that's what a surgeon does. A surgeon is a doctor who performs operations. They've had a lot of the same training as the kind of doctor you would just go and see for your regular health problems, but they've had extra training on how to do heart surgery. They specialize in certain areas, bones, brains, skin, whatever it happens to be. And they do surgery, which is the kind of larger noun for many operations. Quick note, in the UK, you will often hear a clinic called a doctor's surgery. That's just one of those pieces of British English that's a bit different. Here's an example sentence for the word surgeon. The heart surgeon was able to save the patient's life by getting her heart working again.
Surgeon 我们在说的就是外科医生，那外科医生动手术是 do surgery.
Yeah, surgery, a medical operation.
是的，那我们这边说到呢，以前外科医生他在手术的时候并没有穿特别的衣服 ，they just wore street clothes， 指的就是平常穿的衣服，便装。
Right. Now, back in the day, those would have been a bit nicer, a bit posher.
Yes.
Surgeons would have been wealthy, educated people, but still, do you want the person who's just been at dinner in these clothes and may still have food or bad air
weird, right?
cutting you open? Probably not. But that's what the science was at the time, and science improved. The article says, as science progressed or improved, got better, surgeons started to wear something similar to an apron over their regular clothes. So an apron is a form of protective clothing. It's usually only worn over the front and it's tied at the back or the neck. You could have a pretty thin one if you were a cook or chef. You might just wear a thin apron. If you were working with hot things, you might wear a thick apron that could protect you. And here's another example. You sometimes need to wear a special apron when you have an X-ray done.
Apron 指的是围裙，哈，罩在你自己衣服外面的那一个衣服，哈。Apron。那随着科学的进步呢，外科医生就开始在他们一般的衣服之外穿上像是围裙的东西。这边的 as 又出现了，它指的是随着点点点。
But the apron wasn't to help the patients. We see this was to protect them, the surgeons, from blood and other fluids. The word fluid means a liquid of some kind. Now, in this case, it could be a liquid from the body, not just blood, but the other things we've got flowing around in us. Now, there could be other medical things in a surgery that people might use, chemicals, acids, whatever. So they are fluids or liquids, and the apron would protect the surgeon's clothes from those things too.
Fluid 在这边指的是液体，所以呢，穿上围裙可以保护他们不要沾到病患的 blood 血液，还有其他的液体。
So great for them, not so much for the patients. But again, science progressed. We started to understand more about how diseases and germs and things worked. We say in the article, over time, they understood that a complete change of clothes would be cleaner and safer, thus improving a patient's chances of success. Success meaning they would survive the operation.
那接下来呢，他们也渐渐了解到说啊，改变服装可以让一切变得更清洁、更安全。让我们看到 thus 这个字，它是一个副词哦，代表的是以此方式或是借此，所以因此可以增加病患手术的成功率。And then the article says, at first, the doctors changed into white scrubs, as this is a nice clean color, but it caused a big problem.
Yeah, I mean, white makes sense because then you can see if it's got anything on it, so you know whether it's clean or dirty. You'll see a lot of hospitals are white. It does have that nice feel to it. And we also saw the word scrubs. Now, this is always used as a plural noun here, scrubs. and it's used specifically to talk about the clothes worn by hospital staff. They are loose-fitting. They're not particularly fancy, but they are protective. They can be kept clean easily. They're easy to wash and make and mass-produce, so you can always have more. So you might say, the medical students were excited to put on scrubs for the first time.
Scrubs 这个复数名词啊，代表的是手术服哦。那这里我们一样看到 as 这个字出现了，它的解释是由于因为。所以一开始啊，医生换上白色的手术服，因为白色看起来 clean 干净整洁，但是造成了一个大问题。So what was this big problem?
Well, it's a problem specific to the operating room. You will see a lot of doctors still wear white coats.
Yes.
It's almost a symbol of being a doctor, but they're no good in the OR.Because operating rooms use very bright lights.
手术室通常光线明亮，那这样会造成什么样的问题呢？ The article tells us this light reflected off the white clothing, causing a distracting glare and making it more difficult to see.
Right, because white is the kind of color that reflects all kinds of light. Reflect means to bounce back something, light,heat, it could be something off a surface. Mirrors reflect light, and that's why we see our image in it. So if you shine something on white, you can try this. It kind of bounces back and it could blind you. That's why if you go skiing, you often still wear sunglasses because the light reflects off the white snow and you go, ouch, that's snow blindness. It's no fun.
没错，所以呢，我们这边看到的 reflect off something 代表是映照或是反射在点点点之上。那光反射在白色的衣物上面，就会出现强光 ，and it's very distracting.
Yeah, which you don't want when you're trying to cut somebody open. Let's look at that word, distracting. So something that is distracting will take your attention or focus away from what you're doing.A noise could be distracting. You're trying to do your homework, but a loud noise or something like, I can't focus. That noise is bothering me. A distracting light would be, it's too bright. I can't do what I'm doing. It keeps getting in my eyes. A noise, a smell, a sound, it affects your senses and takes your brain power away from what you're doing to focus on whatever this bothering thing is.Distracting
这个形容词呢，就是分散注意力的，或是使人分心的。这边会使人分心的东西是 glare。
A glare is a strong or dazzling light. We actually have a light up there that's lighting us right now. And if we looked straight at it, we'd get a glare in our eyes.After time, we've learned to ignore it. But the first time we did this, that's distracting. That's a bright glare in our eyes.
是的 glare 指的就是耀眼的光、强光。
So the white scrubs were no good. And we see in 1914, so just over 100 years ago, one surgeon decided to switch to green scrubs.Switch
这个动词呢，代表的是改变或是转换。Switch from something to something else， 那就是由某物改为另外一个东西。那1914年的时候，一位外科医生呢，就决定将手术衣改为绿色。He correctly thought this would be easier on the eyes.
Yeah, if something's easy on the eyes, you can look at it without any problem for a long time. And we see in the article, this solved the glare problem. And soon,Other surgeons followed suit. To follow suit means to do the same thing that someone else has already done. It comes from cards. There are a lot of card games where if someone plays a heart, the next person has to play a heart. There are 4 suits in cards. You have to follow the first person. So they play a diamond, you follow the suit and also play a diamond. And that phrase has now come to mean do whatever the person before you has done.
也就是跟进仿效的意思。所以 follow suit 可以放在这样的句子里面，像是呢 We were forced to follow suit when their bakery lowered its prices. 他们的面包店降价的时候，我们就被迫要跟进这件事情。
Yeah, so we lowered our prices too.
Yes.
Now we're going to look more at why green and blue actually work scientifically in tomorrow's part of the article. Right now, though, we're going to our For You chat question.
For
You chat.
So the chat question is, many, meaning many people, find the color green relaxing. Do you agree? Why or why not?
I do agree. I think green is relaxing, but maybe blue is more to me.
Okay.
And a lot of people say if you want to have better eyes, better vision,
Okay.
you have to look at green stuff more.
Interesting, yes.
Green trees, grass, and everything, mountains.
Right, I think that's because those are the natural greens.
Oh, yes.
And of course, if you're looking at those, you're going to be out in the sun where the light is better for your eyes, and they'll probably be further away, so your eyes will get exercise. I would say it does depend on the green. All of the natural greens, sure, relaxing.
Yeah.
That kind of really bright, luminous green.
Like neon green?
Yeah.
That's too much.
Not so much. So if it's a natural green, it's great. If it's a... Because green could also mean like, oh, someone's a bit sick. Someone's not well. So there are some greens which would definitely not be nice to look at. So I would say yes, depending on which shade, how really bright and unnatural it is. Okay, so obviously surgeons don't wear those kind of bright green kind of scrubs. That would
Thankfully.
that would be a bit weird to go into the OR with. But that's all we have time for today. Join us tomorrow to find out why exactly green and blue scrubs work well. See you then. Bye for now.
Bye.
Vocabulary Review.
Clinic. Molly went to the clinic to see the doctor and get some medicine for her sore throat. Constant. Nothing in the universe stays constant. Everything in this world keeps changing. Practically. Tom thinks his relationship with Susan is a secret, but practically everyone at school knows about it. Surgeon. The surgeon removed the patient's damaged kidney and replaced it with a healthy one. Apron. Every time Dad cooks, he always wears the same white apron over his clothes to protect them. Scrubs. In the old days, nurses wore full white uniforms, but today, most of them wear scrubs instead.
智慧小补帖
Fluid. Reflect. Distracting. Glare.
以上节目是由活用空中美语制作，活用空中美语杂志，请洽询全国各大书店。如欲索取试听教材，请来电02-2364-4000 02-2364-4000，或上网查询，网址是 www.english4u.net www.english4u.net